My name is George Packard, and over the years, learned a lot of lessons from employee theft. Today, I want to share some of the ways that I've found my employees were stealing from me and some of the things that I've done to help combat that as the years have gone on. So, a little bit about me. My wife and I have been entrepreneurs our entire life, and we've had several different businesses throughout the years. And in each and every business, I have found theft in from employees. That is how common it is. It's way more common than you know. So I'm going to go with a few of these down the line, and there are many more, but I'm picking out my top ones that really can contribute to your bottom line. So the very first one I want to talk about is time theft. Now, what is time theft? Time theft is if you pay a guy to work 8 hours a day and he only works six, because he somehow managed to screw off for 2 hours a day, or even 1 hour a day, or sometimes 3 hours a day, sometimes a half a day if nobody's watching him. I remember many times on landscape job sites where the guys were taking naps, a couple hour nap here and there, and weren't getting anything done, and just ridiculous stuff like that. But time theft is a real thing. And I just want to give you one example of time theft. So let's say you pay your guy 25 bucks an hour, okay? 25 bucks an hour, and that guy screws off just 1 hour a day. Just 1 hour in that day. Now, this is besides their breaks and their lunch. I'm talking about screw off time, okay? So you take that times 5 days a week, that's 125 bucks a week. You take that times 5 days a week, that's your 125. Now take it times 52 weeks in a year, that's $6,500. That's what that employee stole from you in a given year. 6,500 bucks. How'd you like to have that in your pocket? Now, how'd you like to manage 3 different crews with 5 guys on each crew? I don't even know what the math is on that. 6,500 bucks a year times 15 guys. Look at whatever that comes up to be. That's a lot of money. And so I want you to take some of this information that I'm giving you and use it towards your business, your circumstances. Because I'm telling you, these people are out there and they will nickel and dime you. If they get a 15-minute break, they're taking a half an hour. If they get a half an hour lunch, they're taking an hour. I mean, there's so many ways that these guys find to just creatively screw with you. You come in the morning, guys are supposed to be at the shop at 7 o'clock in the morning, trucks on the road by 7:15, and they manage to screw around for 45 minutes to an hour before they get on the road with all their bullshitting and filling up their jugs and using the bathroom and all the kind of things they do, filling up their jugs of water and their thermoses, whatever. There's a million ways that they screw with you. People don't think about the theft thing, but we've thought about it. We've thought about it a lot because once we started to add it up, we really saw how it affected our bottom line. So I want you to take a hard look at your business, and you're going to see, once you start looking for it, calculate it sometime. Say, hey, I'm really going to pay attention to this week. I'm going to pick one employee, and I'm going to follow what he does. And I'm going to see how he works, and I'm going to see if I can count how much time he actually screws off during the day or during the week. Then calculate that times your other guys, and you'll get the picture. So anyway, that's time theft. Another way that employees steal with you without you knowing about it is when they wreck your equipment. So here's what I mean by that. So I had one example. I had a big NPR Isuzu work truck. The truck was like 2 years old. These guys took it, ran it out of oil, even though the oil light was flashing on the dash, and they just kept running it, just kept driving the truck, thought, oh, we'll get to it. The manager said, oh, yeah, we'll get to it. The workers were telling the manager, yeah, and the manager just kept saying, yeah, I know, I'll get to it, I'll get to it. Well, he didn't get to it. Blew the motor on it. The motor itself cost us $55,000 to replace that motor. $55,000 for that big old diesel motor in that truck. That was absolutely ridiculous. And I couldn't believe it. They've taken mowers, $20,000 mowers, ran those out of oil, blew them up on me. Stick equipment, I can't even remember how many pieces. It was nonstop. Either they mixed the fuel wrong, didn't put any oil in with the gas, burned them up. But when you're doing $250, $350, $400 for these trimmers and stuff and edgers and whatnot, look how that adds up. What about your $700-800 blowers? Same story. When they blow those things up, it all affects your bottom line. And it's because of negligence. Now, there's other ways they steal from you. So, I've had them steal my customers from me. Not once, not twice, but several times. I've had, like, lawn care guys, all of a sudden you fire that guy, he turns around, he goes to your customers, and he takes a handful of customers with him when he leaves. I've had that happen to me so many different times over the years. Now, how do you combat that? Well, I need to back up. I apologize. Let's go back to the negligence on the equipment and how you combat that. You've got to be checking that stuff. I had a fine system set up that if I walked up to you, you're the foreman on the job, I don't care what piece of equipment that I walked up to, if I found that it was low on oil, that guy got a $25 fine. And I stopped that problem. They didn't like it. I lost guys over it. They got pissed about it, but you know what? I held them accountable. They didn't want to be held accountable, so they would quit me. I don't give two shits if they quit me. I don't want you anyway. If you're gonna cost me thousands of dollars in stick equipment, you can be gone. I could care less. All right, so now let's go back to the stealing of the customers. That's happened several times to me. And even though you try to keep your customers, you call them up, you tell them what's going on, they like Johnny or they like Jake, and they just go with them anyway. So it costs you money. How do you stop that? I don't know that there is a solution for that. You can have them sign non-compete agreements, which you might as well wipe your butt with, because how are you going to prove that, and are you going to take the time to prove that? So if a customer goes out and he steals a dozen of your customers, he took a few grand from you, right? So if you want to do something about it legally, number one, you have to prove that. How are you going to prove that? Are you going to have all those customers that he took come into court and say, oh yeah, I signed up with Jake or Johnny? You're not going to do that. So these guys know that. They know that, so they just go ahead and do it. And the other thing, the cost of you taking them to court. Even if you got a judgment against the guy, which is very, very unlikely, the guy's never going to pay you. You're never going to get paid. So it's more like a write-off, like good riddance, get out of here, get gone. Let's talk about the tools. My tools used to pop smoke all the time, and I mean all the time. There was 1 month where I was losing, a stick, an edger one day. 3 days later, I was missing a blower. A few days later, I'm missing a trimmer. And this just kept happening and happening. And then finally, I had a whistleblower in the group. He blew the whistle on the guy. We caught him. We got him out of there. But I'll never get that money back. But what we did is I implemented something and called lockdown on our equipment. So we locked down all our equipment. And I told them, if you're on that crew and that equipment ends up missing, every one of you are going to split the cost of that. So what that did was it got the guys involved, and the guys started watching the equipment. So you pretty much had one thief in the bunch, but believe me, those guys were trying to find that thief, especially when a piece of stick equipment popped smoke $250, and I took and distributed that out to the rest of the guys. I said, okay guys, everybody ante up. We lost another piece of equipment. As soon as I got that money from the rest of those guys, I had their attention. A couple of them quit, didn't like it. I had other guys praised me for doing it. But I tell you what, the whistleblower came out and we caught the guy and he was gone. They're like, yeah, I'm not losing my check for that piece of shit. So anyway, getting paid cash on the side is another way that these employees do this to you. And I've had, even in my mosquito police business, I've had it in lawn care. They'll be mowing grass. A neighbor will come up and say, hey, what would you charge me just to mow this one time? Because they got a letter from the city complaining or something. And the guy would tell them, I don't know, $50 cash, and they'd go and do it. That is very hard to get, very hard to watch. What we did is we put GPS tracking units in our trucks. But when the truck is parked at that one spot, if that employee just takes it and just takes the mower and goes over there and mows him, it's almost impossible to catch that guy. What I did see happening was on the weekends, especially if the managers would take the trucks home, I noticed that, the foreman or whoever was that had the vehicle, if he had to take it home that night because it got done late, that I would look on the weekends and see if that truck was moving. I would get alerts telling me that truck is moving. Then I would see that truck out mowing properties. So, got in my vehicle, drove to that location, caught him doing it, fired his ass. he's not going to be using my equipment to go out there and make money. But that's what these guys do. So by installing the GPS equipment, that helped me catch the guy. So utilize that if you can. All right, let's talk about something else. Office time theft. Here's something that hardly anyone thinks about. I have watched this in my own office. I have, in the winter months, I have time in the office where in the summer months I don't have much time because I'm always on the road. But in the winter months I noticed, these women just don't go to the bathroom once or twice a day like a guy does. They're in there 10 or 15 times a day. Now, is that time theft? I don't know. I would imagine to some extent. But maybe women just pee more than guys. I don't know. I don't even know about that. But here's what I do know. I've gone on their computers at the end of the day and I've looked at things that they were on. So this is how I combat that. Because what I try to do is I come in the morning. We have a quick 5-minute meeting. We talk about what are you going to do today? What are you going to do today? What are you going to do today? What I started to find out was her stuff wasn't done. Some of hers was done. This one didn't even touch anything. That really got my attention. I'm like, why am I paying these people if nothing's getting done? So I had the conversation with my wife. I'm like, we need to check into this. So we started looking into the computers, going into the history on the computers. We could see that half the time they put their headsets on and they're doing YouTube videos or they're doing all kinds of shit they shouldn't be. And so that stuff happens in the office too. Then get gone from the office. And one of the other things we did to combat this time theft is we put cameras in the office. So I've been on the road and I've had my wife pull up the office. So we're looking at the camera. They're all sitting around the coffee machine in there. I don't say anything. We just sit there and we watch, okay? And we watch and we watch. And all of a sudden, an hour goes by. 2 hours go by. 3 hours go by. Nobody's doing anything. Tell you what, when I got back to that office, I was livid. And I lit their asses up, and I think one of them quit on the spot. But we solved the problem. So putting that camera up in the office so we can watch them when we're not there made a big difference. Because these people didn't think we were watching the camera. You have got to let them know that you're watching the camera. I don't care if it's 1 day a week. Just go in there and say, hey, I noticed yesterday you spent quite a bit of time looking out the window, and I also noticed you didn't get your work done. Let's talk about that. As soon as you say that to them, their mind is like, oh shit, they are watching the cameras. So you have to periodically tell them things that you've noticed because you want them to know that you're watching the cameras. And you can't watch them 24/7. Nobody can. None of us have that kind of time. But just do it. Just once every 2 weeks. Bring up something they did in the office and then call them over to your desk and say, hey, I was just watching a film from the other day. We watch it all the time. But you want to tell me what you were doing there or what's going on? How come you weren't working? What's going on? Because they mainly will screw off when you're not there. But I found in our office, they'll do it even when you are there. They just put the headphones on and you think they're working on stuff. Check their work at the end of the day and see how many hours they spend on bullshit, shopping on Amazon, this, that, and the other. You'll be surprised. All right, credit cards. When you have a company credit card and you give it to your employees, I have been hit more times on that credit card. What I found, they will fill up their own vehicles with gas. This is what I've seen. So you give them a company vehicle, you expect them to fill that up, every week with gas. You know about what they're using. Maybe they burn a tank a week. All of a sudden, we started seeing twice as much money spent on fuel. We're like, well, he wasn't traveling twice as much, so what happened? We looked into it. Sure as shit, he was filling up his own vehicle on the weekends, so he didn't have to pay for gas. The other thing we caught our employees doing was buying personal items. Instead of going in and just paying for the gas, they're putting sandwiches on there, Monster energy drinks, all kinds of crap like that, even scratch-off tickets. And they don't say a word to you. They're hoping that you don't catch that. So you really got to pay attention to your credit card statements, go down them, look, itemize those things. Say, what was this? What is this? Let them know you're checking that. That is the most valuable thing you can do, is to let them know you're watching it. The worst thing you can do is nothing. You're too busy doing all your stuff over here. They know that, and they're going to come and take advantage of you. There was a guy in our town that was a town official. He stole $300,000 out of an account, taxpayer account. And when they asked him why he did it, the guy was honest. You know what he said? He said, because nobody's watching me. That's what he said. Employees think the same way. Not all employees, but many. And many will take advantage of you. I've had people in the landscape company, in my mosquito police company, that have stolen products from me. They'll take these $100 gallons of chemicals and they just pop smoke. So what are they doing with them? They're either selling them to somebody else or they're using them for their own use, doing moonlighting on the side or whatever, but it's still your chemicals. So we had to put cameras up over the top of our chemicals. We inventory them in, we inventory them out. Nobody comes and goes without getting checked out with their chemicals here. We had to put a stop to that. So that's what we did in order to do that. That was our pro moment there to do something about it. Checked in, checked out with us. Cameras are on them. Here again, let your employees know you're watching those cameras. All right. We talked about all that, the solutions that we've used over the years. To end this video, I just want to tell you that employees will do what you inspect, not what you expect. I promise you that. Start checking into it and remember these words the rest of your life. Employees will do what you inspect, not what you expect. Check it out. You'll see I'm right.